back or echoing. And then we will get this conversation started because, this is a topic that is very much a hot topic right now. Echoing. What you say? Okay, and I want to put how do I put this sound?
Is my camera too loud?
There we go.
I can't put it any lower. Y'all be looking at my feet. Huh?
No, I want to make sure that I'm mute and there's no echo. Okay, I think we're good to go now.
I don't know what you guys are talking about on TikTok. It's hard to respond to both.
And I do hear a little echo, don't you? Wow, I got to turn it down. My laptop is too loud. Okay, let me hear you talk some more.
Hey.
Okay, I'll turn it up just a little bit more because I want to hear you clear. Just don't want to echo. Okay, it's perfect. You want to move the couch? It's good. Okay. Good.
All right.
All right. Finally.
Right?
Okay. All right. What's up, world? It's your girl, Joy Daly, and today I have a very special guest joining us. She just recently went viral on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram. Your story is everywhere.
I know.
Introduce yourselves to the world and just tell us a little bit about yourself. And then we're going to get into why your story has gone viral.
Okay, cool. Is the audio okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Actually, I'm going to ask the viewers, is our audio okay? Like, if you're watching us you can chat with me on YouTube. Can you please let us know that there's no echo or crazy feedback? And I don't see any complaints. So I think we're good. We're good to go.
All right, cool. All right, so my name is Ray. I currently live in Houston, but I've lived in a lot of different places. I lived in New York for 5 years. I was born and raised in Orlando, Florida. I lived in Charlotte and Atlanta as well. In my everyday life, I work in marketing. I'm currently the marketing manager at the Shade Room, but previously I've worked at Rock Nation, as well as Black Enterprise. So marketing is really my thing in my personal life and in my work life. That's why I think it's kind of crazy that this video went viral, because I'm just like a girl in marketing that's always looking at the different analytics. So I'm like, I woke up one morning and I had texts from my friends and they were like, not you going viral, because my video had made it to Twitter, but I don't have Twitter on my phone. I only have it on my computer because I find that I just scroll too much on there. So in order to control it, I just deleted the app off of my phone. So I had no idea that my video was on Twitter until I woke up to these messages from my friends. And they were like, yeah, don't even bother going to look at it. But I went and looked anyway. And I saw I had like 500,000 views. I'm like, oh my God. But when I was creating the video, I knew it was going to be popular. I just didn't know that it would be that popular.
Yeah. But then again, the subject itself is a very interesting subject. And looking at your Instagram profile, it does appear that you travel all the time.
Yeah.
Traveling person. You look like you don't have no kids. You just live in your best life, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get into a little bit about like planning this trip with this guy now. Is this person somebody that you dated a bit prior to you guys taking this vacation?
So like for a little bit of background, this trip happened in March and it's now December. And like, I'm just now deciding to share it because I'm growing my TikTok and I'm like, I gotta be consistent with my content. So I'm like pulling old stuff, but more about the guy. So I met him. Well, before I share about the guy, I do want to say that this is not the only trip that I've done that was sexless. This is not the only trip that I've done. So that's when I saw the comments, I was like surprised because I'm like, I've done this several times with several different guys. More about the guy. So I met him in 2016.
Wow. You say you've done sexless vacations with several different guys?
Yeah. So actually, I think about 2 weeks before that trip that I posted about, I did another sexless vacation. It was a cabin trip. And then I did this one in Curacao with him. I never posted the cabin trip. I've posted the cabin trip content, but not in the context of it was sexless. It was more so about what we did on the trip. But now that this has become viral, I'm like, I should share more of my content from other trips.
Yeah, because you know that this situation, it outrages a lot of men.
It's so weird. They're so
it
angry.
Makes men angry, like really, really angry. And to me, I'm so fascinated by the fact that you said that this is not the first time that this has happened, that this is like a regular thing. So do you think that like now Baecations have kind of almost gotten into almost like going to dinner, like in terms of dating?
No.
Okay.
So I don't just, okay, so I think a lot of misunderstanding. Hold on. How is the feedback on Instagram? Somebody said it was terrible.
On Instagram? Let's see. I'm gonna, give me a moment, please.
I think I fixed it. Maybe I did.
The secret is that this whole camera is, I mean, this joint is even ugly. That's why I'm
I muted everything except the
me as well. So that's why I'm just like, the only thing we can do at this point is just turn our volume down. Talk to me right now. Let me hear how you can say.
They said it's better.
Better, yeah. It's the loud volume. So I just can't talk to you.
Okay, it worked. All right.
I like it.
So backtrack. This is not the only trip that I've done that was sexless, and this is not the only person that I've done a sexless trip with. So about 2 weeks before going to Curacao with this guy, I had did a sexless trip to a cabin trip for another guy's birthday. We both wanted to go to the getaway house. And it was his birthday. He didn't have plans. I told him I had a credit for the getaway house that I never used. Like, if you want to come to Charlotte, we can go to the getaway house. So he was like, sure, like, let's go. And then.
So that's a very important point. He didn't have to pay for it.
He didn't pay for the getaway house, but he had to pay for his flight from LA to Charlotte.
Okay, so you're flying yourself out on these trips, or sometimes did the guy fly you out?
So in this situation, when I did the cabin trip, he came to me because I lived in Charlotte at the time. But when I went to Curacao, he bought my ticket, and I think it was like $500.
Wow. Okay.
He lives in Curacao.
After you had already explained that this is we're not going all the way, we're still getting to know each other.
So he actually initiated the conversation about expectations. The day that I was like on the way there, when I was boarding the flight, he sent me a text saying like, you know, I just want you to know that there's no expectations on this trip. You know, I just wanted to invite you here so we could reconnect and we could see the vibes. He was like, if nothing comes of it, it's fine. But if so, then we'll just like go from there. But I've known him since 2016. I met him in Brooklyn, New York. We were at this club called Kinfolk. If you're from New York or Brooklyn, you guys remember Kinfolk. It used to be really popular. And he was in line behind me, and he was just staring at me. And so I thought he was cute. He was chocolate tall, you know, you could tell he worked out a little bit. And so I started talking to him, and I was like, hi, because like he just kept staring at me. And then so we started talking. I learned that he was visiting from Chicago, and then we just stayed in contact. He flew me to Chicago to like spend time with him, hang out with him. But like, you know, we were talking up until that point, but since he didn't live in New York, you know, I went to go see him, and I stayed at his place at that time.
So this vacation type of situation, would you say that it happens more so when it's two people who live in different cities and they're trying to like get to know each other?
Kind of, but I think it more so happens when the two people are both interested in travel. It's not a big deal to say, hey, do you want to go here with me? Because we would be doing that either way, with or without the other person.
And it's always more enjoyable to have a trip with another person you can share the memories with, right?
Yeah, sometimes, but I've also done a lot of solo travel too.
Now you did say in your video that by the fourth night, it started getting a little uncomfortable. It started getting a little weird.
Yes. Okay.
But I also want to
explain that more. So the trip was beautiful. I loved the trip. He had everything planned perfectly. He lives there now, so he knows the island very well, like a local person would. So it was beautiful. The only thing that I would have changed about the trip was the fact that it was 7 days. But other than that, I thought that the trip was great. I would travel with him again. I would just make it shorter. So the part that got awkward is like we were playing this game and like we were just asking each other questions. And his question was, are you gonna move your stuff into my room tonight? That was the question. There was nothing that like, there was never a sexual question. There was never like a sexual gesture. There was never any touching there. I never felt forced. And then he followed up with like, you know, we're both enjoying the trip. So I understand that you stayed in the second room for the first half of the trip, but like, you know, since we're enjoying the trip and we're vibing, how do you feel about moving to my room? That was the question. And then I said I would think about it. And then, so I ended up moving to his room that night, but like still he didn't make a move, nothing. Like we cuddled at some points throughout the night, like here and there, but mostly for most of the time it was like space between us. And then like we woke up in the morning and it was just like a regular day. But I feel like he was disappointed because there wasn't that chemistry. But that's not my problem either.
But he wasn't aggressive. He wasn't.
No, never. And I knew that wasn't the case.
Because I have slept in a bed with a man before that really wanted to have sex and I really didn't want to. And the rubbing and the, you know, it's, to me, it's just like, oh my God, like leave me alone. So he didn't do like any of that.
No. So the thing about him, which was actually something that I feel like caused us to never date or make it far, is that he was very shy and timid. He was just very like nice, kind, so sweet. And that's like why I went on the trip with him, because I was like, let me just try it again. Let me just try it again. Like, let me just try to give the nice guy a chance again. He has good conversation. We have similar interests. I knew that I would be safe with him because I had gone to see him in Chicago already. We had gone to on days before when he came to New York. And then we stopped talking because we both got in relationships. So we were like, let's just like reconnect.
Right. So basically, because of his personality type, you felt safe. You didn't feel like at any point that, you know, you could get raped,
no,
or you could get beat up, or you could get sent back home. Did he pay for the rooms as well?
He's 38. Somebody asked how old is he? Okay. He lives there.
Oh, okay. He lives there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that makes a big, humongous difference.
Yeah.
Now, when you've done this with other situations, have you ever felt like you were in danger because you didn't want to give it up?
Okay, so this is a really big point that I want to make. I don't just meet random guys and travel with them. I don't just meet someone for the first time and be like, let's go to Jamaica. Like, I don't do that. Like, I know them and I feel safe with them. I've had several invitations to travel with men that I decline because it doesn't feel safe to me, because I feel like they're a little aggressive, or I feel like they'll be trying to convince me the whole time, or I feel like I just don't want them touching me. So I do decline trips. But these guys that I've gone on these trips with, I feel safe with them before the trip. I know that I'm fine. I've been around them before. I've gone places with them before. We have mutual friends. Like, I never felt like my safety was on the line with any of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't go.
Now, a lot of, I'm reading through a lot of the comments, people kept saying, why would you go on a trip with somebody you didn't like? I think that's a misunderstanding too, because you just explained that you actually really liked the guy, and that's why you went on the trip. You felt safe.
So I never said in the video I did not like the guy. I never said that I did not like him. So the whole purpose of the trip was like an exploratory trip and like seeing where we are now, that it's been a while, we've been in a relationship. He's in a different place in his career. He moved to Curacao. Like when I was talking to him, he lived in Chicago. So it's like, let's catch up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So then, so I never disliked him. I never not liked him. Because it had been some years, I couldn't necessarily remember why we never went further. I couldn't remember it, but I would always remember how he treated me and how he was nice, how he was kind, shared similarities, great conversation. So like, I was like, what do I have to lose? And he had asked me on trips previously. And I never told him no, but I was like, oh, let me think about it. And at this time, the trip he asked me to go on fit my schedule. And so I was like, I've never been to Curacao. So I was like, I'm going to go.
Now, listen to this comment, and I want you to respond. I'm doing comments from all sides of the board.
Okay.
Why go on vacation with men you don't like? Y'all make women look so terrible. If you can't afford the trip alone or with friends, do not fucking go. Because now you out the country with a man that thinks he has a chance and you don't even like him. It's childish as fuck.
It's so funny to me when I see those comments, especially when people saying if I can or can't afford. I have 2 passports full of stamps and I travel. I do a lot of solo travel, and a lot of men that I date, I make more money than them. So it's really funny when people say that I can't afford it, A. And then B, I never said I didn't like him. The whole purpose of me going on the trip, the whole purpose of him and I wanting to reconnect is what it was, to see the vibes. I want to see if I like you. I want to see if I'm attracted to you in that way. And I saw the vibes, and the vibes was not giving sex or intimacy. If I saw the vibes and they were giving that, then that would have happened. But that's not how I felt. I don't feel like I should have to force myself to have sex with someone or like someone because of the circumstance. If that is what I felt, then it would have happened. But that's not what I felt. So that's not what happened. I had to go on the trip to see if I felt that way.
Right. And you're not a person that is going to be stranded in a place because, like you just said, you got your own money. So he can never be like, get out, go back home on your own. And it wouldn't be a problem because you could afford to do so.
Yes. And it's like, I don't attract those kind of men. Like I explain to people on TikTok all the time. It's like, I have really good experiences with men. I feel like people have this bad, like, perception about men, and men have this bad perception about women. Not all men are rapists. Not all men are going to kick you out. Not all men are going to tell you that you have to go home and send you back home because you won't have sex with them. There are good people out there and men out there. You have to find them. So his demeanor and like what I had known of him for 7 years, his background, his career, his emotional intelligence, I knew that wasn't going to happen. And I knew if I felt uncomfortable enough that I would get a hotel. And we also discussed that. It was like, it's a 7-day trip. If you want, you could split it and do some on your own and do some with me. Like, I was never going to be stuck. And I think a big thing that a lot of people are missing is the ability to communicate and the ability to set boundaries and stick to them, and the ability to respect other people's boundaries.
Absolutely. And now, what do you think about, people who would say that the type of guys that you're talking about who would be okay with this are simps? They're kind of weak men who, are being taken advantage of to a certain extent.
That's not really, calling somebody a simp is not an insult to me. I like the simps. I want the simps.
Wow.
I want the simps. I want you to care about me. I want you to love me. I want you to be, I want you to want to be around me, for me, and regardless of the sex. I want you to want to be around me because I'm funny, I'm smart, I have good conversation, I look good, not just because you want to have sex with me. So for example, the trip
all men want. I don't, not all men, but a lot of men, the end game is always sex.
Yeah, so eventually we might have sex, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen on this trip. So for example, the cabin trip I told you about before Curacao that we did for his birthday, we did not have sex in the cabin, but we ended up having sex eventually, and we ended up dating. So it's like, why are we pressed? What's the rush is what it's like. It's like, I have to figure out if I like you as a person before I decide I want to have sex with you. Yes, I'm attracted to you. Yes, you're fine. Yes, you turn me on. But like, do I like you as a person? I'm not, I don't like, it takes time to figure those things out.
Now give me your comments in regards to this comment. I love the girls, and no, you shouldn't have to have sex if you don't want to. But I'm not traveling with a man I'm not gonna hunch.
That's weird to me.
What do you think about those women who feel like the only way they ever agree to go on a trip with a man is if they know for a fact they're going to have sex with them?
I don't know. It's just different people's preference, I guess. But like, to me, it's the experience is more than just about sex to me. Mm-hmm. So I still want to go experience. I still want to see the island. I still want to do the X, Y, and Z. I still want you to take me to your favorite food spots, what you've liked about the island since you've been there. So I don't know. I know there are trips that I've gone on that we have had sex and we knew we were going to, but I just don't think every trip has to be that way. Traveling out the country or going on a trip should not be directly aligned with sex. Like I just don't get it. You can't just go on the trip with the person because you want to see the place with that person.
I feel like a lot of people are sex driven,
It's sad.
male and female. And it's just like you put them in a certain setting. And a lot of time these beautiful vacations are very romantic settings. And it's just the place that, you know, they expect it to go down. So I think that's where a lot of this comes from. It's just the fact that you get in a beautiful place and a lot of people just think the end of the night, after all the drinks and all the fun and all the beauty of where I'm at, I'm trying to get it in.
If I felt that, then it would have happened, but I didn't feel that. I think that that's the disconnect, because people are understanding that I was not saying this is never going to happen. If I felt that, it would have happened, but I did not feel that. And I didn't know that I wouldn't until we started reconnecting. But I want to read you this comment, and I felt like it really summed up the way that I feel about the situation. Okay. Somebody commented, they said, "Girl, if you look at the girls in these comments, none of them are bad like you. A man would never fly them out unless they were having sex, yet fly them out alone. Some women would never understand the luxury of pretty privilege, so they envy. You told him you weren't having sex beforehand, and it was his decision to still take you out the country. They hate the fact that you were able to tell a man you weren't having sex before the trip and still get a 7-day vacation. These girls could never."
I absolutely agree. I do feel like it's different strokes for different folks, and how you're treated might be completely different from how someone else is treated. Now, in terms of do's and don'ts, because in your video, even you said, I wouldn't recommend it. Remember you said that? Now, when you say you wouldn't recommend flying out somewhere and not having sex, or you wouldn't recommend flying out somewhere you didn't want to have sex with the person for 7 days, like what is it exactly?
The second part. The second part. Okay. So I wouldn't, if I could redo the trip, I would do it. And I would also travel with him again, but I would not do it for 7 days. I think 7 days was a stretch. The reason why I did 7 days was also because logistically I had another trip planned and I was trying to avoid flying back home, then flying like to the next trip. So I was just trying to go from there to my next spot, then back home. So that was also partly why the trip was so long. But I don't recommend doing it for 7 days. You can go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your point.
I was gonna say, you can go on a sexless vacation if you guys have the conversation beforehand. I would not go on a vacation with a man that I know is interested in me without having that conversation and just thinking that I would just get out of it somehow. I would never do that.
That is that vacation etiquette that I'm talking about. So vacation etiquette 101, number one rule is you discuss exactly what's gonna go down. So you let it be known up front. You're not getting no ass on this trip. Right? That's important.
Right. And if I change my mind, I change my mind. And if he still feels like he doesn't want to do anything sexual, then that's fine too.
Now, my next question is, what would have happened? Because when you said your period came, you was like, thank God, God bless me. What would have happened, or how much more uncomfortable would it have been had your period not came on that trip?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, because some people comment, they be like, "Oh, men don't care about periods." I'm just like, okay.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, but okay. So the uncomfortability was a mixture between the trip being too long, period, and a mixture between him asking me to sleep in his bed. It wasn't only solely because I felt like he wanted to have sex with me. And it was also starting to get awkward because, like I said, he's a very quiet person. He's very shy. He's like, so it started feeling like we running out of stuff to talk about.
It was kind of getting a little boring.
Yes.
I can see that 7 days with somebody, you got to really like a person's personality to even be able to tolerate them for 7 days straight. That's a lot.
So
what was the most expensive vacation you've ever been flown on? And did not have sex?
Expensive. I mean, I don't know if there's like, I don't really do my trips by price point. So I don't know. I mean, I think that trip was expensive. Even though he lived there, I think it was expensive because of the activities we did and the places we ate and stuff that he had.
And the length of the trip.
Yes, I think that trip was very expensive.
Okay, so any other advice for in terms of vacation etiquette for women and for men, other than the very great point that you gave us earlier? Do you think that there's any other do's and don'ts that you would say for each party when doing a vacation?
So I think a really big thing about vacations, whatever you want to call them, is communication. And I think a lot of people are scared to have communication. Like I have friends that'll text me like, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z with this guy. Like, how do I say it? Like, hey, this guy invited me to New York, but I want my own room. How do I say it? And I'm like, you literally just say it. Like, I think sometimes women are afraid of how men will perceive them. I'm like, I don't care what you think. You asking me to go on this trip, and in order for me to go, this is what it needs to look like. If it's a problem for you, then I'm not going.
Right.
Like it's never the end of the world. I think everybody should communicate their expectations and communicate like what would make them feel comfortable. You can say, I'll share a room with you, but I would like my own bed. So even if you change your mind, if you can change your mind, but if you don't want to change your mind, you're still comfortable in your own bed. I think that you should look for any signs of aggression. Like make sure you've observed the men in a lot of different environments when they're mad, sad, hungry, stressed, because travel brings a lot out of people. It takes them out of their environment and their daily routine. So I think that you should have observed this person in that capacity first. It's always nice if you have mutual friends. It's always nice if you know other people who have experienced this person. So I think that there are definitely boxes to check. Like I have this, am I talking too much?
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay.
I mean, these
I
are really good tips.
Oh, I have this guy who's been asking me to go on vacations for a while, like elaborate, like Fiji Island, or like we can go wherever you want for New Year's. And it's like the offers that he's giving are so grand. It feels like too much of it feels like it's a setup. It feels like it's a setup. So it's like so I decline his trip every time. But I've hung out with him in person and I've gone on dates with him, but I'm not going out the country, or I'm not getting on a plane or staying in a room with him.
He makes you uncomfortable.
It makes me uncomfortable.
Right. Well, I have never done a vacation where I did not have sex. But you have made me feel a lot more comfortable with it, because I'm not gonna lie, prior to having this conversation with you, I kind of was on the side of the man. I kind of was on the side of, you spend all this money and of course you expect it to go down. But I think the reason that you really changed my whole perspective on things is because of the clear communication that you had first. I believe a lot of women who get themselves into big trouble when they go on these trips with these men, they are misleading the man into thinking that they're going to get some ass, knowing good and well they have no intentions. Yeah. And that's how they lured them in, because there are a lot of women who can't afford to travel on their own. So the only way they getting out the country is if a man fly them out. So those
that's
are
scary.
The women who give what you do a bad name and make it a bad look. And those are women getting kicked out, and those are women getting raped, and those are women putting themselves in bad predicaments. Do not mislead a man. You throw.
That's scary. I would not recommend that.
Right.
I would not recommend that. And I would not sign up for that. I feel like my anxiety would be so bad the entire time. Like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night thinking they might like jump on me or something. So I would never recommend misleading someone and like even making them think that there's a chance. If you feel like there's a chance that you might change your mind, I wouldn't even say that. I would literally say, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to say, I'll think about it. I'm not going to say, we'll see how it goes. The answer is no. And if we get in a situation where we feel like it's going to happen, then I'll let you know I changed my mind. But up until then, it's no. And then another thing I wanted to say is I wanted to talk a little bit more about the trip before this, which I'm going to post content of. is the guy who I went to the cabin trip with. I told him, I said, hey, I want to get the cabin with 2 beds, so it was my idea to get the cabin with 2 beds. And do you know, he thanked me. He said, thank you so much for making that decision, because I was a little nervous. And, sometimes I feel like women don't take men's feelings into consideration when it comes to stuff like this and like the nervousness and stuff. And they just expect that that's what's going to happen without considering the male's comfortability. He thanked me so many times for deciding to get 2 beds before and after the trip. So it's just like not all men are assuming that not all men are just wanting to do something for sex.
Right. I don't know where you're finding these men.
I be vetting them. I be telling people, like, I find really good men. To the point where it's like, if they don't work out with me, we just didn't click. But like, as long as we didn't date in a committed relationship and we just like talked or went on dates, I'm like, girl, you can date him. Like, I had a friend, she was like, hey, I'm on a date with this guy. I know you guys know each other. Girl, he's fine. Like, tell me what's the catch. I'm like, no, he's a really good guy. We just didn't click because X, Y, and Z. I don't care, because I find good men, and just because we don't work out doesn't mean that they're not good.
Right. They just weren't good for you.
Right. Go ahead. Talk to somebody else.
Right. Well, do you have any other comments that you read yourself? Do you read these comments? And is there anything else that you would want to address to clarify? Because I think they kind of made you look like a bad person. And now after talking to you and hearing the full side of it, because, your video was very short. So we only got a very quick little glimpse. And at that glimpse, like I said, you look like, oh my God, how could she, But now you explained everything. It's just like, okay, it makes perfect sense. So any other comments you want to address yourself that, to eliminate this negative view that they're kind of putting on your story?
I'm going to be fully transparent. I think it's hilarious. Like, I told you, I didn't even know I was going viral until I'm getting the link to my video on Twitter. And I will also say this. I am a marketing genius. I do this for work. I told you, I've worked at Rock Nation, Black Enterprise, The Shade Room. I am intentionally growing my TikTok following. My video is very strategic. My video is very short on purpose. The text on the screen was on purpose. The footage was on purpose. The parts I left out was on purpose. So I'm seeing people commenting on my TikTok video, even people arguing with each other. And I'm like, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted, because I'm growing my TikTok following with the goal of creating an additional stream of income. So when I say that to you guys, I want you to know that when you're consuming people's content, this stuff is not accidental. I knew that this was going to be big. Brands, when they do different marketing campaigns and tactics and stunts, they know this is going to be big. This is what I wanted. And
wow.
It's like,
so this is all very strategic.
Yes.
Planned.
Yes.
It's not a random video. You were in the shower, like, oh, random, let me go shoot no, you put a lot of thought into this.
I edited that video so many times. I posted it, deleted it, took it back off, put it back, and I'm like, okay, now it's perfect.
Wow. To me, that's amazing, and people got to give you credit for that. Like, exactly what you were doing. You actually achieved your goal. And I feel like this interview is going to bring awareness to the misconception that women are evil who take a vacation with a man and decide or off the break are like, I'm not having sex. It's not an evil act, y'all. This woman proves that it can be done, and it can be done safely. And we need to get that out of our heads that when we go on a trip with a man, we have to have sex with them. No, we don't.
You don't. And you shouldn't want the type of man who feels like you owe them that because they paid for a trip. Like, for example, people are like, he paid X, Y, and Z. $500 is nothing to the type of men that I'm interested in. $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. That's nothing to the type of men that I attract and that I'm interested in. So for them to, so they should never feel like they're owed anything.
Mm-hmm.
Step the quality up.
Right, right. Well, we have a lot that we can learn from you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel like you clarified so much, and I hope that people were taking notes. I hope that the women watching were taking notes. I hope the men were taking notes, and I hope that we change this concept about vacations and the importance of sex. You can go and have fun and travel and that there not be any sex and it still be a good trip and nobody's getting screwed over, literally.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Yes, now I'm definitely going to be in touch with you because to me, it's amazing what you're doing in terms of your marketing yourself, you growing your TikTok, your Instagram is amazing. You look amazing. Like you look like a model.
You. Thank you.
I don't know what the workout regimen is. Maybe that's going to be the next interview. We're going to talk about how you get this banging body that you got. But thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope to see more of you. I feel like you have a lot going for yourself.
It's coming.
Yeah,
it's
you're
coming.
about to be.
I'm warming up.
You just getting your feet wet, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Now, if anybody wants to follow you, contact you, see more of you, please let us know where to find you.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. My @name it's Ray2U on all platforms. So just follow me on there. Anybody want to continue the chat, DM me. If you want me to speak on any panels or speak to this video or anything else about marketing, hit me up there as well.
And your ultimate goal in all of this is to promote yourself, and what exactly?
So in 2023, I'm going to be working on a career transition. So I've worked in marketing kind of behind the scenes as a brand manager, marketing manager for years. And now I'm trying to do a career transition to where I'm more camera facing and doing more interviews and hosting. So that's where I'm starting with, that is building my own following and growing a community and getting people more familiar with me and my stories.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.